Okay, we're going to call the work session to order. No, y'all are having a lot of fun back there for Chief's birthday. We ought to just have a party right there. Okay, I know we need, so we're going to begin the work session, but I know we do need to make an adjustment for time for one presenter and move item D1 up as A1. And we'll make the pest control services A2. How's that? Alrighty, let's go ahead and begin then. D1, which is now A1, Supplemental Water Supply Intergovernmental Agreement. Mr. Bain, and?
Good afternoon. As Mayor and Council know, we've been in discussions with Carroll County on an intergovernmental agreement for water supply. Mr. Judd Turner, who is with me today, helped us negotiate this process, been working on this for quite some time. So I will go ahead and introduce him to lead this discussion.
Okay, thank you. Afternoon, Mr. Turner.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. It's good to be with the council today. As John said, I've been trying to help you guys on some water things for some time, but it's good to be in person with you. What I thought I would do today is obviously we're going to talk to you about the high points in the intergovernmental agreement, the water contract with Carroll County, but thought I would give you a little background on how we got here and some of the negotiating points. Obviously, Villa Rica and Carroll have a long-standing relationship on water, and Villa Rica had a very good volumetric rate on the amount of water per 1,000 gallons, and it was a very favorable contract for Villa Rica, and it is coming to an end in the spring of 2025. So we knew this date was out, and when the scope of my work has been not just to negotiate this agreement with Carroll, but also with Douglas and explore other water supply options. Given the age of the infrastructure here in Villa Rica, also sort of understanding John's work and the team around your own system and upgrades that are needed there and to be considered there. So it's been it hasn't been the most linear process because you've got to kind of think about, okay, what's our own system look like? What are we able to treat and produce ourselves? Okay, what's our maintenance schedule look like? What does our upgrade schedule look like? What do we need to go talk to our neighbors about? And this work didn't just involve Carroll, so it involved thinking about all our options. Cobb, Paulding, potentially, Douglas, and Carroll. So I'll focus in on Carroll, but certainly open any questions about the work we've been doing, where we're headed. Douglas is close to coming to you as well, and so I can give you an update there. And certainly, Mayor and Council members, if you have a question, just holler. You don't have to wait till I'm done. With the expiration of this long-term water contract we had with Carroll, the Water Authority, we had some, I would say, some goals going in, one of which was to obviously get a new contract with Carroll for as long a term as possible and at candidly, the lowest volumetric rate. We knew we were going from a very favorable rate to something that was going to be higher. It's just a matter of how much. We also had leaned, we typically, now this is evened out a lot with the interim deal we did with Douglas County for 150,000 gallons a day to sort of lubricate, if you will, the Connors Road lift station work that had been done. But we still had to have the tendency, I think, when we have maintenance events and things of that nature, we lean on Carroll pretty significantly, which means that they're subject to some volume changes that are not really most of the time those are planned and coordinated, but sometimes they're not. And so we obviously have a goal to make sure we can have, when we need extra water beyond what might be our standard amount, we want to make sure we have the access to that supplemental water. And then the other key thing I think for Villa Rica is as planning occurs on maintenance and operation of your existing facilities, how do we secure the water we need from our neighbors to get us through that period at a minimum? Carroll, although if anybody's followed, they have been engaged in a reservoir planning 404 permit process. And so when we approached them originally, it was not clear, that they view Villa Rica as a partner for sure and wanted to continue that, but how much of a volume they sought was sort of a question. So clearly what this negotiation sort of has illustrated is that they want to continue the relationship, but they need an updated rate structure. They were not as interested in longer term beyond 10, so this agreement is of 2 5-year terms, 1 5-year automatically renewable. They do desire to see us Villa Rica be more consistent in that amount of water we're taking from them. It's not so much an issue if we take 400,000 versus 500,000, but that we would do it with some consistency. And then for them, their real comfort level was not beyond about 600,000 gallons a day. So the high points of the agreement before you are the following. The key volumetric rate that everybody will focus on, I know, is $4.95 1,000, which is a good bit of an increase from where we are, but very consistent with both discussions around and what we have been looking at related to other municipal rates in the region. It is, we're going to have a 300,000 gallons per day minimum take, and then up to 600, and that 495 rate would apply anywhere in that volume. If we're above 600,000, we would pay the 115% premium on the 495, so that'd be like 570 if we were above it, the marginal amount of water above it, which we might be, but it would be short term if we were. Key notice termination provisions are a year, so that's both for termination without cause or termination or notice of non-renewal for that second 5-year agreement. 60-day notice for termination of calls. Hopefully we won't see that. If they have to buy water elsewhere to deliver it to us, there'd be a purchase water markup of 10%, and the effective date would be February 1 of next year. And I think those are the high points in this agreement. So I'll pause, and if there are any questions about that, I'm happy to see if I can answer them.
Questions from council? I don't think it hurts to say that there's a reason we need these relationships. We don't produce enough water on our own to supply, but we can also run into a problem like what occurred, I don't remember if it was 16 or 17, that drought.
Yes.
Where we got so low, our lakes are not that deep to begin with that we use for our water, but that was so low. And then, something extreme could happen, like a hurricane, and you just don't know how it's going to impact different cities and locations. And this sets us up so that not only do we have regular water that we can purchase from, at this time, 2 different sources, but that should we need more, should there be some other unforeseen event like I just mentioned, that we know we've got a safety net in a sense, because water is kind of essential for our citizens. So that's where I see getting these agreements in place, and thank you for the work you've done on this. We were getting a very favorable deal with Carroll County, and eventually that has to change. So I think that's understood.
Mayor, I will say, doing some water supply work both in my prior life and for some other cities and municipalities. I mean, Villa Rica sits on a ridge, not a very big water basin, so you have to be very mindful of the physical constraints of your system. And so that's absolutely wise. And I would just put a marker for your further planning around long-term drought contingency. So when we get these 10-year agreements in place, both Douglas and Carroll, that's going to be a great 10 years, right? Mm-hmm. And it's going to, if drought really hits you long-term sense, and before this hurricane, we were there, and we may still be there very quickly again based on this sort of pattern. That's what you worry about for a system like Villa Rica's. And so the good news is, in the very near term, even though both the deal with Douglas and this one are up to 600,000, you can buy more if you need to, and they have it. These are not capacity deals. You're not paying extra for an insurance policy yet. The good news is it would be probably premature to need to do that in the next 10 years. But the conversations around that concept really need to begin once we put these contracts to bed and think about, okay, imagine whether you're upgrading your own system and can produce 3 MGD, or you're moving to purchasing your water in greater quantities from your neighbors. One of the things that you're going to want to think about is more of a capacity that you actually control and own, not, hey, we'll get it from you if you got it. Because it's in those long extended drought periods that you're going to need it, given your, as you mentioned, Mayor, more shallow lakes, but it's also when everybody's going to need it, right? And so all those other systems are going to be, they're happy to sell it to you if they got it. But I think the bigger conversation, and one that will take more for planning purposes and more discussion, is what a long-term sort of capacity agreement would be for those contingencies that you describe. Again, the good news is, based on the extent of growth right now and the existing sources that both Carroll and Douglas have, I think that's a conversation that doesn't have to, materialize an agreement on capacity today. But we shouldn't take 10 years and say, oh, that box is checked, and move on to the next thing. We should keep at that longer term thing too.
I appreciate you saying that. I'm sorry, real quick. Just want to reiterate, it is our goal to be water independent. It is not a good place to be in, to be totally dependent on another entity that may or may not be able to supply it, and also controls the cost. So that's our goal, and had we started years ago, we'd be further along, but we're at the beginning of what, I'm looking at you, John, about a 10-year process. We're just at the beginning of what we hope in the end will give us approval with kind of recycling that water. And I think we're still in the phase of the first year of sampling.
Yes, and we're wrapping that up. I know we worked on that as well.
Okay.
The IPR, the indirect potable reuse, yes.
Okay, Councilman Carter.
Okay, you said Douglas County is coming real soon. What should we expect to hear from Douglas County? What are we going to get from them?
So, let me tell you a little bit about the update on the Douglas contract. So we have really negotiated most of the T's and C's. There were a couple of things that were that need to be really tied down in the contract. Particularly, the latest relates to these certain neighborhoods where Douglas provides the water, but you guys provide the wastewater, and they bill for it. And so those places, we've been tracking down where all those are, so we get them updated in this agreement. But the structure with that one is very similar. I believe the volumetric rate is going to be a little better for us over there. They got a little better extra supply, I would tell you, at least up to the first levels. But we're talking about a take-or-pay structure, similar, 300 over there, up to 6. The only difference is they tie theirs to their residential rate. So whatever the city decides is the the take or pay amount. So it'll be at least 300, but we might decide John, you and I were talking about this, we might decide once we get these two agreements in place that maybe we're really ready to move up to a take or pay of 400, let's say, from Douglas, and we'll get their best rate in that sense, which is right now in the draft agreement, that'd be 78% of their tier 1 residential, which I think translates to something a little better, like 430, 1,000. So we will see. Again, those are just preliminary numbers we've had in the agreement. They, we'll obviously come back, but that's how that thing will work. You always want to be availing yourself of that best discount. There's a less good discounts if we were to lean on them for 1 month but not be ready to move up the increment. And that way we would pay maybe as much as 85% of retail, but we want to be down there 78% at that lowest tier. And so at the end of the day, both from John will speak to this better than me, but from an operations standpoint, even though we got slightly different rates, I think operationally taking some of the water on the side from Carroll for the system and then the Douglas side at sort of not necessarily equal amounts, but certainly if we started at 300 and 300, I think that's good operationally for the system to take it in those two different directions. And so I hope that we're close on Douglas. That's the structure. Rate's going to be a little better than Carroll. But a similar kind of 300 up to 600 concept, and the ability to buy more at a premium.
Okay, you alluded to the fact there is a section in Mirror Lake where they supply the water. We had trouble with that in 2007. They stopped giving us the money back, up to $750,000. You say that agreement's still going to be in place?
Well, I don't know, and John will have to speak to which neighborhood, but yes, in this agreement, we're covering that aspect where they're billing both features and then remit to the city the wastewater.
Well, that worked okay for a while until they decided to withhold it.
Well, hopefully
I was on the council when that happened.
That predates me.
Yeah, and it was in 2007.
Right, and I know we also had a new agreement in 8 that we haven't really used until we did this supplemental agreement with them for the 150,000 gallons a day that's been in operation for a couple of years. So hopefully both this agreement and sort of redoing it will have the benefit of moving that to the top of the stack, and you won't see that, but that's certainly the goal.
I just want to make sure this doesn't happen, because we had a contract with them back then, and they broke it. And it was because they didn't want us to annex any more of the Douglas County into the city, so they were using that as leverage. I just want to make sure that's not going to happen again.
Well, I think as mentioned, what I'm working on right now is going through each of these neighborhoods where they may supply the water, but we provide the sewer. We're narrowing down all the parcels in those neighborhoods so we can have that essentially spelled out in the agreement as to not only what parcels is in their service area that they would provide water to instead of us. For instance, if there's a undeveloped parcel in the city limits of Villa Rica, but it's in their service area, then we need to allow them to provide the water, right? But in the reverse of that is it's in our sewer service area. They need to allow us to provide the sewer, and then we need to get those funds from them. So that's really where we're at in the contract, I think. It's just I know Judge worked on the majority of items we're pretty well comfortable with. We're just working out some of the finer details as it relates to their service area versus our service area and how those funds would be transferred. So we're getting there. It will be in the contract, though. So my thought is if it's in the new agreement, that will pretty well spell that out for us.
Just want to make sure it doesn't happen again if they stop giving us the money back contrary to our contract. And try to use it as a bargaining chip to try to prevent us from annexing property.
I think one advantage to both these agreements is that it clearly defines our service areas versus our neighbors' service areas, so we can watch that closely. We will know what service area, what parcels. If we have parcels wanting to be annexed, we know which service, who provides service to that area. I think this will help our staff understand that more clearly so we can identify what we should be getting. So we should be, I guess to answer your question, we should be able to track that pretty accurately.
It was just one little section of Mirror Lake. It was that
Okay.
particular section
Yeah.
where that happened, yeah.
Understood. Yeah, I'm not familiar with which section it was, but I think this agreement should spell everything out as to where that falls. So,
Sounds like y'all are doing all the research to make sure it's all in order so that we know which ones are ours and which ones are theirs.
yes, essentially that's it, yes.
And I know in some cases it's both. We're doing the sewer, they're doing the water, but,
Yes.
okay. Okay. Got it.
The only thing I would add is you're right about the annexation agreements between the city and the county, not the authority, but the authority kind of has, you know,
They used it as leverage.
right. And so I think that's not the tenor of the conversation. We have talked about annexation, talked about that's between the two political entities, and that as it relates to these provisions, we're tidying it up so that it will work. I certainly wouldn't represent to what folks might do contrary to contract obligations, though. So can't make a promise there. But certainly, I think conceptually, this is about making the water relationship work.
Any other questions from council? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Turner.
Thank you.
John, you're done? Okay. All right, we changed and moved, so item 2 will now be pest control services. Mr. Griffin,
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council.
afternoon.
First, I want to,
Yes. Oh, yes, anyone opposed to putting, I'm fine again, I'm going back down to where it is. In the supplemental water supply, intergovernmental agreement with Carroll County on consent agenda? Okay. All right, so that will be consent item number 1. All right, pest control services, we're going to be doing this at my house too.
are you really?
Yeah, that's me.
Yeah, I'm getting yelled at by some of the staff because I had to pause services while this was out, and there's been some ants and some
All kinds of things are showing up.
little issues. Yeah, so pretty pertinent that we get this going. We put out an RFP for these services, requesting an annual contract with a company that was interested in providing them. We actually received quite a few, a lot of interest. We had 10 total proposals from different and various companies. Some of them were local, some of them we've used, prior in the past, and some of them we have not heard of. So there was some stipulations in the scope of work that we requested, that I tried to be as specific as possible. We did put language in there that stated if we were happy with the pest control services, we wanted to continue that there'd be an option for up to a 2-year extension. I'm not asking for that today. If we get to that point, then I will come back before council and mayor and ask to renew that contract for another year, and we'll just take it as a year-by-year basis. We have had pest control, obviously, in the past. We've had about 14 buildings getting serviced. After speaking with staff, we wanted to add all of our buildings. The concession stands at the recreation department, they're getting used heavily like never before, and so we want to make sure there's no pests there. And so we've got a total of 25 actual buildings that are going to get serviced. There was a company named I'm sorry, it was Bugmasters or
Busters.
Bugbusters. I'm so
Busters,
sorry, I thought
like
it was
Ghostbusters.
Masters. Yeah, the Ghostbusters. They came in at the lowest bid for a monthly cost of $665. This is kind of on par with what we have been paying in the past after doing some calculations I got with finance. We had the bid opening with finance in the office and went through all of them pretty extensively. And so staff's recommending proceeding and engaging with Bugbusters USA for a monthly pest control service of $665.
Questions from council?
Yeah, you mentioned there were some other buildings you wanted to add. All this get put in before they bid?
Yes, sir. That was included in the RFP that was published and put out on the website and various other places.
So you've got all the buildings included?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah, it's at you have to scroll down to the bottom of this particular attachment. So I looked over at all the places I had to do. And I know you gave them the opportunity to come out and look at it, meet with you and everything else so they could assess the work, so.
Yes, ma'am.
So, they all had that opportunity.
Okay, how often, this is a monthly fee, how often do they treat the buildings?
That's based on the integrated pest management procedure and process that they put together, that they're required to put together from the state. They come out, they assess what kind of pests we have, and how often they may need to be treated. Obviously, the goal is to not have any pests in our buildings. So, on a monthly basis, an inspection will occur. Treatment may not occur on a monthly basis. If they come in and inspect and they see we have an issue, they're going to address that certain pest in a certain way with a certain product.
So all buildings get inspected at least monthly?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Nick, does this include, I know you mentioned that it included the concession stands. Does this include your fields?
No, ma'am.
Okay, because I ask because ant mounds have been a huge issue at multiple fields that I have noticed this season. So I'm not trying to add more to your list.
No, that's perfect. Any kind of exclusionary work or anything that we may need to add, or if we see an issue like ant mounds, we will ask that provider that, if approved, to come out and spot treat essentially. So if we recognize an issue, it's kind of a maintenance item or a complaint-driven type request. I believe grounds maintenance is working on the ant mounds. I'm not exactly sure who they're using, but this company, if we need to treat on the field or we need to get rid of some bats that are in an attic, we would ask this company to come in and do that.
Yeah,
So we can definitely add that.
they have been crazy this year for sure.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. We'll make
okay.
sure that gets addressed.
I appreciate it.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I was wondering if they did it or if Recreation kind of did their own thing with the fields, because those piles will they'll pop up quick.
Especially
know-
with the rain.
I know years ago when I was teaching PE and you're taking those kids out on the fields and some have an allergic reaction. Now we have the fire ants that we didn't have, years ago, invasive ants from wherever, South America or something or another, and giant mounds, and they're bad.
They are. I
Yeah,
wouldn't wanna
and
play
so,
football
but they'll
on those.
come up so quick that a lot of times, I don't know how soon they come out, but I would say the sooner the better. That's not something that can wait a week or whatever.
No,
because
ma'am.
the kids are playing on there all the time.
We'll make sure that gets
Any other
addressed.
questions? Anyone opposed to making this consent item number 2? All right, that'll be 2.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, B, Community Development, RA-04-24, rezoning request for 6.9 acre parcel located at Connors Road, rezoning from C1 to C2. I'm sorry, C2 to C1,
Yes, ma'am.
down zoning.
Down zoning.
Got
Down
it. I'm
zoning.
thinking, wait, no, I know that one. Okay,
How you doing, Mayor and Council?
Hey.
You doing all right?
Good.
Good. Well,
we'll try not to put you through the ringer. Thank you. I know you do a
thank
lot of work.
you. Thank you. Well, just to paint some color to this particular item right here, AUP Enterprise LLC is actually requesting to downzone a parcel that's right in between Permian Way and Connors Road. As you said, the parcel is 6.09 acres. It's currently C2 zone, which is commercial medium density, and the applicant is trying to downzone that parcel. Just give a little bit more information on that parcel and the applicant. So in 2023, City Council did actually approve to make that applicant and the parcel, his parcel, the subject parcel, to be the presumptive licensee for District 1 distilled packages and a liquor store, essentially, a new development liquor store. So the applicant actually came back to talk to the city in regards to trying to see if he can downzone that parcel. The reason is because currently the C2 parcel, if you develop anything on a C2 parcel, it has to be on at least 2.5 acres. So the applicants want to see if he can downzone it to C1 opposed to C2 because the minimum lot size will be 1 acre. So, okay. So by him doing that, he wants to try to see if he can parcel split that lot into 4 tracts. His reasoning is he wants to see if he can maximize the lot as it is. So for one of the 4 tracts, it will be like 1.12 acres, and that will probably be on the corner of Carners Road and I believe Carners Road and it's not Permian. It's
There's Garner,
Garner
and then there's the
Drive.
other one down by the gym and Dollar General.
yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Yes, it will be on the corner of Carners and
Garnett, I'm sorry.
Garnet Drive. And then for that particular parcel, that 1.12 acre parcel, the applicant is trying to put a C-store or a filling station on that parcel. And that C-store / filling station will be roughly 4,875 square feet. And then also towards the east of that parcel, the applicant wants to go ahead and build his package store on a 1.445 acre lot. And he proposed that the package store will be 10,000 square feet. And east of that parcel, the package store parcel, will be a tract 3, which would be 1.5 acres. And the applicant is actually proposing to not build anything on that lot as of now, but then actually build a detention or detention pond on that parcel. And then lastly, the last of the 4 parcels will actually be on the corner of Garnet and Permian Way, and that will be a 2 acre parcel. And the applicant's proposing not to build any developments on that particular parcel as of yet, but in the future build something on there after he actually constructs the filling station / C-store and the liquor store or package store. Based off of that, again, I do want to add that that the Planning Commission actually did see this item last week in a way of a special exception or a special meeting, a special call meeting. Thank you, a special call meeting, and we had 3 commissioners, and they all voted unanimously to approve this downzoning. And staff's recommendation as well for this would be approval, because it does meet section 8.27. So all new package stores actually have to meet development standards within our zoning Article 3 book. And those things are things like the new package store has to have 200 feet road frontage on a either major collector or arterial road, AE Carners Road. So it does meet that. It has to be on at least 1 acre parcel. The structure itself, the liquor store, has to be a standalone structure, and it has to be more than 6,000 square feet. So based on all those supplementary conditions, the applicant did meet all those. We've been working with this applicant probably since February. I'm just trying to see if we can revise the site plan to get everything done based off of what he wanted to do, which was do a parcel split. We have been in talks to him to go ahead and it's been almost 2 years since council actually did give him that presumptive licensee status for District 1. And we have been telling him to go ahead and build that package store first on your parcel. He's come back multiple times saying that he wants to go ahead and build the package store and the filling station at the same time. Hence why he wants to come through you all and actually downzone that parcel, do a parcel combine, or a parcel split into 4 tracts, and then go ahead and build that C-store and the package store at the same time. Based off of that, again, City Council or staff does look to approve this request, again, because it does meet 8.27. It is it still aligns with our comprehensive plan, which is inside that C2, or the commercial corridor of Mirror Lake that's going off of 120. So it does, or I-20, it is conducive to that still. And then lastly, the applicant is just simply trying to maximize this lot. He can build that package store on that 6 acre lot, or he can essentially build a plaza, if you will, commercial plaza on that lot. So that's what he's seeking to do.
Okay, so I found it very helpful to watch the planning and zoning meeting, so, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I want to make sure I have this right. The only thing that we're deciding is similar to what they were dealing with is, can this be divided up into 4 tracks and changed to C1 instead of C2? So here's my 2 questions. What is the type of thing that could go in C2 that wouldn't be allowed in C1, which we're changing it down to? What's that a picture of?
That's the C1 and C2 zoning ordinance.
Oh, okay.
So I can address that if you don't have.
No,
it up your
and that's
head.
fine, and I'll go ahead and throw the second question out. So he wants to put a retention pond on one part. If they decided to build later,
Yes, ma'am.
a retention pond would still have to go somewhere, right?
Yes.
So how that was my only other question.
Yes, ma'am. So that detention pond, that's still very, very preliminary. This is just based off of the site plan that he did give to the city. Now, when he'd actually do go through that pre-construction stage after this, it will be vetted by staff, and we can go ahead and make corrections. if need
Okay,
be.
got it. Thank you very much.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I need,
Councilman Mumtahan? Oh,
go ahead.
Well, I mean, to answer your question, Mayor, I mean, just a couple of things. I mean, for the most part, everything that can be built in a C1 can be built in a C2, but a C2 zoning will allow them to build a truck stop, which they can't build in C1,
Because of the
large
size.
motor vehicle sales. They can do small motor vehicle sales in a C1, but they can't do large motor vehicle sales. In a C2, they can build a small, medium, and large-scale retail ranging from 15,000 to 35,000 square feet, whereas in C1, they can do small and medium, less than 35,000 square feet. So those are just, I mean, there's a whole bunch of other ones in here. I mean, in C2, they can build a school. They can't do that in a C1. In a C2, they could do a clinic, which they can do that in C1. They can build educational institution. I said that already. So, yeah, those are just a lot of differences. It's just a largely more intense.
it sounds like it's
So-
more related to the size of the facility, which is why it requires more acreage. If you were going to be in C2, you'd have to have more acreage for each one of the things you wanted to put in there.
Correct. The C2 zoning, I think Sean mentioned this, requires a minimum lot size of 2.5 acres, and C1 requires a 1 acre lot size, so.
Yes. Councilman Carter?
Yeah, I'm trying to get myself oriented off your your report here. I'm looking at the display you have. It shows Douglas County on one section of property. Where is this property relative to that? Is that to the other side of Garnett Drive? Is
Yes,
it the
sir.
one next to the old Walgreens?
Yes, sir. So it is in Douglas County. It's in relation to Mirror Lake Boulevard. It's right behind the Family Dollar. It's a undeveloped parcel. There's no structures or anything there.
Okay, it's the single part right across from the health center.
Yes, sir. Right across from there.
That little square area there wants to be divided. You're showing it as one, and they want to divide it up into 4.
Yes, sir. They do. And I do have a PowerPoint. I'm going to go ahead and display
That
during.
makes sense.
Yes, just because I'm a visual learner, and I'm pretty sure that citizens are just as well. So yes, sir. They are going to subdivide that lot to 4 tracts.
So that little piece of property is Quartz Drive on one side, Garnet Drive on the other, and Mirror Lake Boulevard on the other. I had seen in the report where they was going to face the package store was going to be on Connor Road, so I don't see how this can be on Connor Road.
Well, the
You know
applicant
what?
in.
And forgive me for interrupting you.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm guessing that your PowerPoint might answer, and I probably shouldn't have preempted, might answer some of our questions. Would you be okay with him going ahead and
Sure.
doing that first? And then if it doesn't answer our questions, we'll come back with, okay,
Yes, ma'am.
let's do that then.
Okay.
Okay.
No problem.
And I appreciate the work you put together on those, because for us visual learners too, and it makes it clear if you're watching or anything else, so I appreciate that. Thank you, Mr. Daniels.
Yes, ma'am. rezoning. Yeah. I have no idea. No. Yeah, we can do it like that. Yeah, okay, I can do it. Awesome, awesome. Okay. So this shows a site plan, and I actually did put some layers on top of that just so I can break down each parcel. So the orange parcel right there is where the C-store is actually going to be located at, the filling station, if you will. And then the light blue colored that's right there, the parcel 2, is where the 10,000 square foot package store is going to be at. Now you do see that those two parallel red lines, that's actually is the proposed private driveway, or I would say drive or passageway through that will connect Connors Road and Permian Way. So that's how the citizens, if you will have access on to actually enter inside the package store. It's the one in the middle, the blue one. Yes, sir.
So is that Connors Road up at the top?
Yes, ma'am.
That's what it's.
Yes, yes, sir. It's in the middle of there. I might have. So in this slide, the package store is highlighted specifically. Okay. Okay. Yes. So the orientation. So the front of the store, package store, will actually be right here. So it'll be facing Connors Road, and the rear of it will be facing essentially Tanner Manacle and Birch Senior Living.
So this is an entryway, there's parking, and the front would be here? Is that what I saw you put the laser there? Here's landscape. Those
Yes.
look like parking spaces, it would be there?
Yes, it will be. It'll be right there. That'll be the entrance area.
So as I see it, this package store is facing a private drive that's coming through there. That's not even a street, is it?
No, sir. It actually is facing Connors Road. They do have that private drive, and that'll actually be like the side of it, essentially.
The road comes up the side, it connects, I only know that from what you said. It connects Connors to Permian. The front has some parking first, but it's up at the top, right below the parking, so the front door faces Connor,
But the store's way back.
but the road comes up the side.
Right.
Is that what okay.
Yes, ma'am. And then you do see that little hill area that's in the blue. It's like a spur, if you will. So, the architect actually had to create that spur in there for the track just so it can actually meet the 200-foot road frontage off of Connors Road, if that makes sense.
So Sean, let me ask you, you said that the developer was approved, but not the location in particular for the packaging store, correct?
Well, the lot and the developer essentially was both approved. So he can actually build the package store on this 6-acre lot if you all do not approve his rezoning.
I understand, but he would still have to come back before council to get his license
Yes,
for
ma'am.
the packaging store, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
So then he's been told to build his building first without a license for the packaging store yet?
Well, essentially, when we actually did do this, this predates me. He actually did go in front of the city council, actually become the presumptive licensee for District 1. It's just after he goes vertical, I think the last step will be to open up to get approval from you all.
Well, I don't have a problem with packaging stores. I don't think that any of the council has a problem with the packaging stores. I don't think that any of the citizens that I've spoken with have a problem with the packaging stores. The citizens are the ones who voted in favor of the packaging stores. The issue for me is the location. The issue that that many of the citizens have expressed is the location. While I understand that the developer has the right to build on this property, it doesn't make much sense to me that they would spend all this money on building this business and then not be able to get a license from council for approval for that license. Because I'll tell you right now, I know one particular council member who will definitely vote no on that, and my vote will be no on that. I'm going to go ahead and put that out there for the business owner because I think that that's what's fair. And I know what hat I'm wearing at this point because I think that it's fair to be completely transparent in this situation. I understand that the vote is for the rezoning. However, I think that it's important to be fair to that business owner. And rather than, hey, spend all this money and then you're not going to get a license anyways, because for me, my vote is going to be a no on that. You've definitely got 2 no votes on that. So where that stands exactly, I'm not. I mean, I can't say whether or not that would pass for sure. But again, the issue is the exact location. It's a really bad look for Villa to have a liquor store right near a counseling facility, I said I was going to hold my comments to tonight, but here we are. A psychiatric facility, the Burgess, the assisted living facility. It just and the church. Thank you. I knew there was something else I was forgetting. While there's an ordinance in place, there's rules and regulations for everything. Regardless of whether this stays within those rules and regulations, there has to be some sort of common sense that comes into play at some point. And for me and many of the citizens that I've spoken with, common sense here is the issue. I do question the reasoning behind this particular location. Every business has a target market, okay, if you will. Every business has a target market. And by building a liquor store so close to a counseling facility where people with addiction problems are walking right out, this particular facility from it was a 12-month period from September to August, they saw 17,024 patients. 17,000. At some point, we have to think about the health of our citizens. And this is the health of our citizens. And at what cost? We have to think about our citizens, and we have to think about what's best for them. And this is not what's best. There are so many other locations for this. And it is so heartbreaking that we're even discussing this, that this particular developer would even want to put this business in this particular location. There's so many other options. I said I was going to save those comments for tonight. There it is.
Mr. Drummond, I think you were signaling me.
Well, I just want to say, thank you. I was going to actually ask you, Kevin, to opine on that. because I'm not exactly sure that the process that Sean described is 100% correct. I don't see why we would let them build a building and then issue them a license. So that, I don't, can you clarify that for us?
Yeah.
But also, I wanted to mention that, yes, he was the presumptive licensee back in August 23. At the time, Ms. Shirley and I were the only ones that voted no on this license at the time. So I'm also not trying to get out ahead of anything here. I'm also not inclined to vote yes on the liquor store when it comes before us, because I've already voted no against it once already. However, my understanding is the issue before us is a downzoning from C2 to C1. It is not to approve the liquor store, which also then turns my question back to Sean. I feel like we're talking about liquor store requirements when that's not actually in front of us. It's just the downzoning. So I feel like maybe staff or the city has conflated this issue and confused a lot of people. And so I'm a little concerned about that, because when the liquor store is ready to be applied for, we'll have a separate hearing on that and a separate application. This is just merely to downzone. And as it sits here, I don't see any reason why we shouldn't downzone it from C2 to C1. I'm not saying I'm in favor of the liquor store, not saying I'm in favor of that. I've already voted against it once. Planning on voting against it again, but on this issue, I think we're conflating issues, and I think we need a clarification, because we're talking about liquor stores. Liquor stores aren't in front of us. We're confusing a lot of people, I think. But Kevin, if you could clarify that for me, thank you.
That's exactly right. I mean, the issue for tonight is strictly a zoning issue of going from C1 to C2 or C2 to C1, C2 to C1. It is not the use of the property. Of course, only things that can be built on the property are uses that are approved in those zoning categories. Now, council in 2023 awarded the applicant as the presumptive licensee. So if he builds a building that meets our code, 7 or 6,000 square feet, an inventory of $750,000 worth of inventory that meets all of the distance requirements under state law and our city ordinance, then he's got the license.
But does he build the building first and then ask us for the license, or does he get the license first and then turn around and say, I got the license, now I can build
We
the
can't hand him
building?
a license because he doesn't have a building.
Okay.
He doesn't meet the ordinance. Once he meets the ordinance, he's getting his license.
And if
if he built a building like in the corner there of this parcel, and I think he still might meet the measurement requirements, but let's say there was a church. There's a church, you don't see it on the screen, but there is a church a little further over. If he violated that measurement requirement because he selected to put the building in the wrong corner, he's not getting a license.
I see. So if he builds the building and then for some reason or another, the city rejects his license, well, he just kind of use the building for something else at that point in time, right? Another kind of retail restaurant. He couldn't build the.
I think
he couldn't.
Isn't that where the presumptive part would come
I
in?
think
But
it's
we
a
haven't
staff
done this
decision.
before.
I think it's a
so-
staff decision at that point, because council's already approved the license conditioned upon him meeting the ordinance.
Okay. So then my next question would be, he could have just done that already
That's-
under C2. He doesn't need a down zone to get to this point. He could have already just done that if he wanted to, but he wants to build these other parcels, and our ordinance requires 2.5 acres for those other parcels. So in order to get him down to 1, he has to down zone to C1. Is that correct?
That's right. If he'd have built a building in the last 12 months, you would have never seen or heard from him in this context.
Sure.
He wouldn't be before the council asking for his license. He would have had his license.
Okay.
Just for clarification, it's now C2. If we turn it down, stays C2, there's 2 lots instead of 4 lots. Is that correct?
It's one lot.
It's one lot.
It's just
but
one
he could-
lot.
He could divide into 2 lots.
Okay, but
And-
if we keep it at C2, it's going to be bigger lots. If we go to C1, it's going to be smaller lots. It's going to be 4 smaller lots.
Yes, sir.
And he can still build a liquor store.
Still builds liquor store.
We can't stop the building part. We can control the amount of territory he's on.
The downzoning, if I recall from the meeting, was about being able to put 4 businesses instead of 2,
To maximize his lot,
to kind of almost like a,
a plaza or something.
yeah, plaza, yeah.
So what exactly is it that he's going to need to come back before council for with a license?
He won't unless he's coming for a variance.
Okay.
So
He
yeah, that's,
wouldn't.
I guess, that's something I didn't realize. I thought he still had to come before council to get the actual license. I didn't know that.
think that's how the,
That was,
I didn't know what a presumptive license was until we started. This is the first time we've ever done this with
Right.
the package stores. There can be 4, one on the south side, one on the north, one on the east, one on the west. And they had to qualify. It was like
Yeah.
almost like a lottery if there was more than one person,
It
right?
was that and your typical alcohol
So-
stuff with the background checks and all,
Yeah,
and the advertising
okay.
and the noticing.
but I guess,
And we had a public hearing.
Kevin, so if somebody is selling beer at the gas station, they have to come in and get a license, the council approves that. But you're telling me that if someone wants to open a liquor store, that's a staff decision?
No,
So explain,
we had the hearing. We had the background checks.
and that's when we gave him that's when the council gave him the presumptive license.
But if he didn't already have a building, I'm confused as to
Right.
why he was able to have a license. Because part of that license is the location of where those
That's
alcohol
right. He-
sales are
he
going to
could
take
not-
place.
This person could not decide to build on a completely different parcel, so somewhere else in the city. His license was contingent upon building on this parcel.
Okay, if we keep it at C2, the city is still going to dictate how he arranges the buildings on these parcels, is that correct? We still have control over that. I mean, we'd make it face Connor Road, we can't turn around and face. Don't we have control over that, how they arrange the
I mean, he's got to meet
buildings?
all, he's got to meet all the ordinances in building development code as far as how he constructs the building.
Councilman Carter, just a clarification, when you say the city still controls, are you talking about the council, or are you talking about staff, or both? That's kind of my, yeah.
Yeah,
I think the staff takes over as far as that goes, because we don't,
I don't,
it doesn't come back to us after that.
Yes, sir. We
That's what it
wouldn't
sounds
dictate
like.
the orientation of the building per se. Like, we can't tell him that it has to be facing,
But you have to approve it. You can't, he can't just decide where he wants to put it and go put it. It has to work with the city to get it done.
yes, sir, for like standards, for development standards, like chapter 4, chapter 7, things like that in our zoning ordinance. Mhm.
So, I mean, I believe that this is part of the reason why Villa Rica's in the situation that we're in. I mean, as far as down zoning, he knows what he wants to do with 2 of the parcels, but he doesn't know what he wants to do with 2 of the other parcels. So if we just leave it open to, hey, you know, whatever you want to do with it in the future, it's cool. I
Yeah, but
mean,
he actually has less options now, because we're taking from C2 to C1, so we're actually taking away some options he could have previously
well, he would
had.
only have 2, and he's already got plans for 2, so he would be done.
That's what I'm saying, but on those other 2, under C2 ordinance, he would have had more options to do it,
But under, but if we just leave it as it is and deny the
Right.
rezoning, then he has his 2 businesses and he can be done.
that's correct. Well, good information learned, because I thought we were going to hear this again under a separate application for the liquor store. So, did not realize that.
Any other questions from council?
I'd just like to add that I truly hope that the business owner is listening to this work session and that he will really consider what he's hearing from right here. We are not opposed to a packaging store, but this particular location is the issue. we have to think about the health of our citizens, and I do question his morals by choosing this particular location for this packaging store.
All right, this will be, if there's no more questions, this will be back before us tonight because it does require a public hearing. Nothing else? All right, then we'll move on to item B2, two variance requests by Prime Construction for a proposed private townhome development located on Villa Rica Road. This also requires a public hearing, so it will not go on the consent agenda. We can ask some questions now, but it will be back before us tonight as well.
Thank you, Mayor. So we're going to see if we can pull up a PowerPoint for visuals for these two variances as well. But a developer is actually seeking to develop a proposed private development on the 13.11 acre parcel. The applicant is actually proposing to construct 67 single-family attached homes on that parcel. Now, there are some, okay, get some visuals. Awesome, thank you. Now, a little bit of background for this particular item as well. So in 2022, a developer did come and request for two variances in relation to this parcel. It was a different developer. He was actually proposing to construct 3 multi-family apartments, if you will, buildings on that lot. I think it would be like 48 units. And along with that, the applicant came in front of City Council to propose or request, if you will, 2 variances. One, to actually encroach the 75-foot impervious buffer, stream buffer, and then as well as construct a retaining wall, 2 retaining walls. One will be 363 linear feet, and the other one was 245 linear feet. In 2022, the City Council did vote to unanimously approve these 2 variances, and let's see if I can go down. Now, currently, it's a different developer, but he's actually proposing to build something like what the past developer wanted to construct, but instead of building apartments, if you will, he wants to build fee simple single-family attached homes. So he wants to have 5,000 square foot living spaces for those homes. The orientation is a little, I would say, challenging, only because the topography of that parcel, it's actually a stream that actually runs right in the middle of that parcel. It runs north to south, but it's just right in the middle of it. So it's been undeveloped for so long because of that stream that's in there. So the developer had to essentially, or the engineer, if you will, work to orientate these lots specifically to not be within that stream buffer zone. Now, 29 townhomes will be located on the eastern portion, 27 townhomes will be located along Villa Trace Road, and then also we have 10 additional homes that will be constructed more closely to the western part of the parcel. This applicant is actually proposing to construct a linear retaining wall of 350 feet, and that will be behind units 39 through 51. The applicant said that he wanted to construct this retaining wall to serve more additional buffering support for that stream that's actually right behind those units, just in case any flooding or anything happens. The development was actually proposed to actually have 20-foot street private alleyways. So they will not have the traditional public right-of-way of 50 feet or 60 feet, but within that development, there will actually only be 20-foot alleyways. And the applicant did propose to construct a fire truck / service turnaround alley in that development, and as well as have some green space there, a grill, a playground, and 17 parking spaces. And this is the conceptual private development site plan that the applicant did provide to the city. As you can see, 29 townhomes are actually on the north part of that parcel. Let me wait a little bit.
You should see us when we're reviewing this, and I'm on this tablet trying to make that as large as possible, right? To get a feel for where everything is.
Well, he's not horn heavy today, so that's fine.
Some of them have a lot of fun going through.
Yes, ma'am, they do. So based off this site plan, as you can see, 30 townhomes are actually towards the east of this parcel, and then 27 townhomes are actually right on Villa Trace Road. And as you see, there are some more units that's towards the side that are closer to that western part of the parcel. Now, the first variance is to reduce the front setback from 35 feet to 15 feet on Villa Trace Road, specifically for one lot, and that's for lot 33. And as you can see on this PowerPoint, 33 is actually inside that light blue box that's right there. And so lot 33 is actually, it has two front setbacks, so it has to abide by where it's actually oriented inside the private development there, where you see the driveway for lot 33 there. It has to meet the front setback for that particular it's essentially a setback where it's at. But since it's oriented on that corner lot, it has to abide by two setbacks. So it has to abide by the one that's actually inside the private development, and then also the one that's off of Villa Trace Road. Hence why the applicant's coming to ask for a variance. And that dotted line that's on the PowerPoint is actually the city's required 35-foot front setback on local roads. And that purple line, excuse me, these colors are so faint, but that purple line right there is what the applicant is proposing to do, and he wants to go ahead and to deviate from that 35 foot setback and actually reduce it to 15 feet to actually put that 33 or the unit 33 there. Now, all those the packs that are actually oriented on Villa Trace, they actually do meet that front setback area. It's just this particular lot that's actually there on the corner that does not. Based off of this, the city is recommending for denial for this particular lot only because it is self-imposed for this, because he doesn't have to build this particular unit there. He can put it somewhere else, but essentially he can just do away with it. And then also the unity of it, or it's not uniform if that lot actually goes there. If you're coming from Villa Trace, essentially coming from Highway 78 going on to Villa Trace, that'll be the first building that you'll see, and it's not uniformed up with the other buildings that are actually inside this development. And then lastly, their second variance that they're trying to seek is to allow the lots 39, 41, 43, 49 through 51, and 55 to encroach the impervious setback in a total encroachment of 631 square feet. Now, the city staff recommends approval for this particular a variance request only because in 2022, City Council did approve for the this lot, if you will. It's a different developer, but if any variances are on a lot, that variance is tied to that lot forever.
Didn't it impact their backyards or something,
Yes,
and
ma'am.
where the terrain, and something to do with the terrain, so there was mitigating circumstances such as more of a hardship? I don't remember all the notes from then. I read over this.
Correct. You're exactly right, Mayor. So it's a river that runs right in the middle of this lot. It's right in the middle of it, or a creek, if you will. So they're trying to, or back then they were trying to orient it where they won't have their apartment buildings within that impervious lot or that stream buffer area. Now, in 2022, the city council did vote to approve that impervious setback encroachment, which was 608 square feet. And since that's already tied onto this lot, the applicant essentially is requesting for encroachment into the impervious lot 631 square feet. But if you take into account of the 2002 encroachment, they're only asking for about 23 square feet into that impervious buffer. And since it's so minimal, city staff did recommend approval for this because it's a minimum by nature. And essentially, since the city council did approve for a majority of that encroachment in 2022, we can see that for it to get developed, that shouldn't be too bad of a request.
What's the little green?
Yes, ma'am. So that green there is actually where those lots are actually inside the impervious setback area. So if you see it light up right there, that is where the proposed building is. It will be inside that buffer area. So we just told the engineer to just highlight it for you all to make it easier to look at.
Councilman Momtahan, because this is your ward.
Yes.
I don't remember, is this Chapman? Also, we have a couple Chapmans. I'm trying to remember who. We met with somebody on this. I was thinking we met together and that we were glad that it was a new developer because it was going to be apartments. And now we're talking about home ownership, townhouse nonetheless, but home
Right.
ownership in comparison to rentals. Because I know we were trying to put a cap on some of those because we were concerned
Right. I
about
think-
getting too much rental
Are you referring to
housing.
the, proposed industrial one that we met over with the Mr. Bentley?
And it could be that that you weren't there, but I just remember with being informed and meeting with them that they wanted to go with a ownership in comparison to a rental. And I was like, to me, my personal opinion is that it was a big improvement over the apartments. Is more, home ownership,
I don't
maybe
recall
people
that
can
conversation.
own a, single-family home on acreage, but they might be able to afford a townhome, whatever. Okay, I think I remembered some of the notes from prior that you were talking about with the back. Okay, I'm good. Questions?
Mayor, I have a question, if I may. So, let me ask you, have they already submitted construction plans for this, and then this variance issue arose, or is this pre-construction?
Pre-construction.
Okay. Has staff had maybe conversations with them? And because I think one of the concerns I have, and I know this is a variance, so wearing the appropriate hat, but one of the concerns that constituents have raised to me is the number of curb cuts on Villa Trace. So has staff maybe collaborated with them and proposed doing access on a rear entry or an alley? I know that will probably then cause them to come back and get variances on the front but at some level, from an aesthetic perspective, I would much rather grant them variances. I mean, I'm just one of 5 council members up here, but I would much rather see a product where there are no curb cuts on Villa Trace and all access is through that private alley. Is that something, a conversation have y'all had that conversation with them?
Yes, sir. We've been in talks with this applicant. I think this is probably the 6th or 7th site plan that we've looked at.
Okay.
They've actually showed us some that where all these homes are actually oriented inside of the whole parcel, if you will, where there's nothing that's just oriented on Villa Trace.
It's gated, yes?
No, ma'am,
It's not gated?
No.
Okay, so those aren't, because I drove back there Sunday afternoon, so that entryway is not going to have gates on it
No.
that I saw. Okay. They all come out that way? What I saw where I entered down Villa Trace on Sunday afternoon, I kind of just went over to scout it out.
This is still vacant. There's no construction on this parcel,
No, it's
right?
still undeveloped. Yes,
Okay.
sir. In 29 townhomes.
It's
will be
behind it.
oriented right
It's
on
behind,
There's another-
it's
yeah,
behind the other
behind
one,
the one,
the
right.
private one.
Right, correct.
Got it, that's why I
Embry,
couldn't get to
yes,
it.
yes,
ma'am.
Okay,
Yeah, if you go down to Villa Trace and we're at Villa Trace dead end, it's that property to the right, and there's
Got
houses
it.
on your left.
okay,
Yes.
yep. Thank you.
So, I mean, I guess what they're in those conversations, this evolved into what we have now, and nothing came of the conversation about maybe minimizing curb cuts on Villa Trace.
Yes.
So the city is, you can step here real quick. We've had many pre-submittal meetings with this developer, especially after they proposed the townhomes. At the city's request, they oriented these townhomes like this. It was back when we had previous administration. They thought it would function better. And they did request and engineering approved all of the curb cuts, which was a concern, especially with like the L-back curbs. So they proposed doing a rollback curb and then cutting in there. So if they do a rollback, they're not doing curb cuts essentially,
Right.
right? It's going to be
Well, you still have, I guess I say curb cuts, but you're really talking about
drive
driveways.
entrances. It is. It's a lot of traffic.
And I know there's existing driveways from the single-family detached, but you're talking about packs of 5 to 8 in clusters,
Quite a
and
few.
I think that's the concern I've received from constituents about that.
And that definitely understood. The alleyway was also an issue. You know, we didn't want to adopt an alleyway as public because it was initially planned to be public. Now that it is private, we can request a gate there at the city's discretion because it is, you know, it's going to be private. They're going to retain ownership from what they've told us. We haven't seen any civil plans. This is prior to any kind of civil work. You know, obviously the developer doesn't want to invest a lot of money into engineering if, you know, the plan isn't going to jive or work or be approved. And so this has been ongoing for quite a while, and the new owner is receptive to anything. But, you know, we've, especially with the previous administration, we asked him, you know, he'd bring the concept. We've had a meeting. We said, oh, we don't really like that. Let's change this. Let's change this. And we're working with them. You know, that was a diligence for the city and also with the owner to try to make this parcel work with what he's got. He's got a lot of buffer there. So that's kind of like a brief history. But, you know, with the rollback curves, the drive entrances on the main street, yeah, it's not ideal.
Okay. And I guess, I mean, if the council rejects both variances, I mean, we're looking at potentially they don't build 5 lots or so. Is that
Yeah, 5 or 6, yes, sir.
5 or 6 lots? So, I mean, we go from 67 to 62 or 61 lots.
And they are currently permitted for the multifamily. I think that's been discussed. So they did have an LDP. They did some other civils. They went through that process.
They could revert back, is that what you're
They
saying?
could build- yes.
So let me just say, they could revert back to apartments instead of townhouse home ownership. My opinion, what y'all are recommending makes sense to maybe deny the one and approve the other. And I don't want to get off the rails here, so I'll just mention this for future because it's kind of like the package store. We're not really considering all the traffic issues right now. This is for these variances, but as we go forward, there is an issue when we have various developments all coming out one place. So just, that's not for now, but we've got to consider that coming out 78, near the high school, all that. Just like the way they flow out on Punkintown Road and some of the others, one way out, and they all go out to a main artery. And in this case, it's 78, where everybody goes when something happens on 20. So the more we can do with GDOT going forward with roundabouts and everything else that allow traffic to flow in that area, you know. Okay, but anyway, that's it for me.
Thank you.
And this will be coming back tonight. Thank you for the clarification on that. So they're private, not gated. I don't think that's a big issue, but I think I do remember the gating being brought up. Yeah, yeah. Okay, B3, ABL-06-24. VR LLC doing business as Bell Street Burritos, and this also requires a public hearing.
Liquor license.
It is not.
It is not what? You're
Oh,
not?
no, I'm sorry.
Oh, I was going to say, I know you're not Whitney.
I'm not Whitney, no. She's a little taller. Afternoon, Mayor and council members. I'm filling in for Whitney. She's at a conference, a training conference.
Oh, and forgive me here. I'm forgetting to do this, so any of y'all are allowed to do this. People said it would be really helpful if, when people come up, if they not only state their name, now, so I may say hello and say your name, and to state your position, that will be helpful. And I have failed to follow up on that every time. I'll try to write myself a note. So let's try to do that. Y'all help me with remembering, so I don't have to bring it up for y'all. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mayor and council members. Nina Shabazz, Community Development Director.
Thank you.
And I'm standing in for Whitney Cox, our licensing extraordinaire.
She'll appreciate that.
She will. She's a gem. She's a gem. The purpose is to present the application for BSB VR LLC, doing business as Bell Street Burritos, for a pouring license. They're essentially wanting to obtain or to obtain a pouring license for malt beverages and wine at the business location at 660 West Bankhead, Suite F, Villa Rica, 30180. The applicant has complied with the ordinance with regard to the legal notification requirements and has successfully passed the background check conducted by the Villa Rica Police Department. Also, there are no location zoning restrictions that would hinder the issuance of the license. The business is currently operating as a restaurant and holds a valid City of Villa Rica occupational tax permit, and staff recommends approval for the pouring license.
Any questions from council?
No.
Thank
We're
you.
good. Thank you.
you.
Does require a public hearing. It will be back tonight. All right, Public Works. Mr. Birch, right turn in and right turn out at Commerce Drive and Highway 78. This is right there by CVS.
Correct. Hal Birch, Public Works Director. Glad to be here. So yes, this is something that Bobby had put together and asked me if I would stand in for him and present. So this is a proposal to do a design proposal for a right-in, right-out at the intersection configuration. The purpose of this item is to approve an engineering design to make the intersection of Commerce Drive and Georgia Highway 78 a right-in and right-out for vehicular traffic. For years, traffic traveling westward on Highway 78 trying to turn onto Commerce Drive has held up traffic sometimes back to the intersection of 61. There have been many traffic accidents that have occurred trying to make these turning movements. Georgia DOT has even asked the city to consider changing the configuration of this intersection to a right-in, right-out. Georgia and West engineers have given the city a proposal to design this intersection as a right-in and right-out to the Georgia DOT specifications. Attached is a proposal for $23,650, and this is for the engineering design only and does not include the cost of construction. One thing, though, I do want to add, after having reviewed this, I did reach out and speak with Bobby and also had an opportunity to speak to Councilman Momtahan, as this was an item that he had proposed or had brought up to be looked at. And one of the key elements of this is the fact that Bobby states that Georgia DOT has quite often asked us to do this, to turn this into a right-in, right-out only. Considering the fact that it is on a state route and it is in the Georgia DOT right-of-way, and they are wanting us to do this, it would be logical for us to approach them about actually doing it. So we would like the opportunity, if at all possible, I would additionally like to recommend that it would be prudent for us to reach out to DOT and state that if this is something they want, we'd be more than supportive of them going ahead and doing it. Rather than us paying $23,000 to have a design done when they could, for all intents and purposes, do it themselves.
I was wondering why we would delay, but that's a really good reason. If they're willing to do it and pay for it, have you had any communications with them?
I've not, I mean, Hal just
Okay.
spoke to me about it, like, just right at the meeting, and I think it'd make a good idea to just to postpone this for 30 days and see what feedback we get from GDOT. Because if we can get them to pay for it and they're going to still do it in a somewhat timely manner, I would be in support of that.
The worst they can say is no.
And it's certainly an issue. It's evident. And
Did all those right in and right outs that they created going up 61 south, going up the hill, they didn't consult us on those, did they?
exactly, they did not.
So why do they need to consult us on this one? Why can't they just put it in?
They do not. They don't need to.
Because apparently we cared more about this one than the surprise ones that they put in
I
for
mean,
us.
they suddenly appeared and there they were.
Now, there have been statements made by them that the roundabouts that they are proposing to install will automatically make these right-in and right-outs. What we would like them to do is do it a little bit sooner, before the potential roundabout. But those conversations, it would make sense to be had.
Okay.
That-
Councilman Wormuth?
I've also expressed concerns about this particular area, so I definitely support what Councilman Monahan had mentioned with this, or with him bringing this up, should I say. With that said, in this particular area, I guess the issue is going to be how are we going how are we going to flow the traffic? Because if we do a right only here, a right in, right only, number one, we're going to have traffic that's going to either cut through CVS, and then they're still going to go and turn left right there. So there's no stopping that. Or we're going to have we're going to create traffic problems elsewhere, where they're going to have to turn right and turn around somewhere, or whatever the case may be. So I guess my question to you is, how are we going to flow that traffic if we stop this problem and we're just going to create another?
South Street.
And I don't know
Where the
that I have
firehouse is.
100% of the answers, but that she is correct. There will be an additional entrance off of South Street, but certainly you could go to the light and turn right, and there's an entrance very, very shortly, right up the road is the very next traffic light that turns into that Commerce Drive area. So it wouldn't necessarily be out of the way.
You know
That
what?
makes
Okay,
sense.
so instead of coming across and wanting to make that left, which I can't even imagine trying to attempt, I don't even try to do a right coming out of there to get in the middle lane. They just turn at the light onto 61 and turn in, you know, like you would for Chick-fil-A,
For
racetrack, and them. But if they go past it, instead of making that left, if they keep going where the fire station's being built, is where a road's going to come through that's also going to have connectivity that we're paying for, the one that runs between Chick-fil-A and racetrack, right?
Yes,
Between the two?
I believe that's.
So there'll
yes.
be connectivity off of South Street to all the parcels on Commerce as well.
How
That makes sense.
long-
I know it's easier when there's a picture.
Yeah, I don't know the light you're talking about with turning are you talking about the light right there?
Right at 78 and 61, yeah. They would turn there instead of crossing the intersection and trying to
Right, they
make-
would turn left there, but then what if they're going to the high school? How are they gonna get back over that way?
Well, they would turn, I think you're saying they would turn right there at Commerce and 78, and then basically you're gonna, can't make it, but you have to go to make a right on 61 and then do that U-turn and go back around. But I think the ultimate, and this is, the mayor and I attended a Chamber of Commerce meeting with our local GDOT engineer, and he basically said eventually in about 2 years, we're gonna start construction on the 7861, and you're gonna put a roundabout at Rocky Branch, and you're gonna put a roundabout at 7861, and so basically it's gonna kind of barbell it like this, and then till you're making a right, you're gonna go around and go back, which is what GDOT is basically pushing for intersections throughout the state right now. And then like that Waffle House issue that we had a couple of months ago, and CVS, and every single driveway in that between Rocky Branch and 7861 will be right in, right out on both sides, except for the fire department, which have a special access.
Right, and they all need to be a right in, right out, but there
Yeah.
has to be a solution on how to filter that traffic back to the left. Just because on that road, it's so dangerous. I mean, you've got multiple, entrances where curb cuts, thank you, where they're turning left in that area, traffic backs up and accidents or whatnot. But again, you've got to be able to filter the traffic back around and not create traffic problems elsewhere. How long until the road behind the fire station is planned to be completed?
And I don't have that answer for you. I know that they're.
I'm putting you on the
feverishly
spot,
working on
I'm
it. You're fine.
sorry.
I actually met with.
I'll know it tonight,
With the director
because I've asked
of-
for an update on the fire station.
I'd actually met with the Director of Public Works for Carroll County just the other day, and he was actually physically out there putting down the base. So it is actively being done or being worked on. I just can't tell you exactly when the final topping will be put on it. and
Do we have a
ready to go.
rough estimate?
I haven't
No.
had those.
I know, I'm
conversations.
sorry, I'm putting
No,
you on
you're
the
not
spot.
at all. You're fine.
Well, let me put you on the spot again. We were told there was going to be a diamond at the I-20 crossover. Is there still going to be a diamond there?
Yes.
I can't answer that either.
That was
I have heard
another-
those talks, but I can't answer that.
Yeah.
I don't have any
I've been
information
asked
on
that question. I just wondered if
That-
it was still the plan.
That was also discussed at the meeting that the mayor and I attended a couple weeks ago, and I think they're they're going to put that to bid in, was it 27 or 25? I actually have the presentation. I was going to talk about it tonight.
I'm waiting for my copy. Yeah, I want a
Well,
copy
Did he
too.
not email it to you? I thought he CC'd us both on that email.
I don't believe so, but I'll double
forward it
check,
to
because
you.
I did want a copy. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's hard to
I'll
remember
forward it to you.
everything that got covered that day
But yeah,
and the dates.
and I was going to actually talk about some of that in my council update, if that's okay with y'all, but
I'll try, I know I'm going to get an update on the fire station tonight, I just don't know what time. If it'll be before the 6 o'clock meeting, because in the last 12 hours or 24 hours, I did ask for one. If I have it by tonight, I'll let you know about that road, if I
Mayor,
have
he-
it by 6.
he did CC you and Jeff on it, on that email back. So do you want me to
Okay.
forward it to you again?
No, let me just go through all those emails. Thought I'd checked all of them. Thank you, appreciate that, yeah. Any other questions? All righty, then, but we're going to take this off the agenda. We're not going to consent, because we're going to see if GDOT would like to pay for this, do this, and
That would
Every-
be my recommendation.
yeah, are y'all okay with that? So we're not going to put it on consent, and we're not coming back to it today.
It's on the published agenda, so I'd suggest just
Oh.
tabling it to the next.
Okay, so do we have to bring it back tonight to table it?
I would table it tonight.
Okay, so we need to table it tonight. All right. Got to remember all those rules. Okay, good. All right, so we'll adjust the agenda, the final one this evening. Item number 2, traffic calming recommendations for River Trace subdivision.
Yes, so the purpose of this item is to recommend traffic calming measures in the form of speed bumps and three-way stop intersections for the River Trace subdivision. The city had received a request for checking the vehicular speeds in River Trace subdivision. The speeding concerns, along with reports of several pets having been run over by speeding traffic. The traffic counter was placed on River Trace Drive on the long section, which is the problematic area. During the week of August 29th through September 5th, the 85th percentile speed was calculated to be 37 miles per hour and a posted 25 mile per hour speed limit. The city ordinance dictates traffic calming measures to be installed if the 85th percentile speeds are above 10 miles per hour over the posted speed limit, which is the case here. Normally, increased signage in the area would be considered as a first approach, but in this case, given the street configuration of the area tested, increased signage will not slow down traffic. This is Bobby's assumption. Structural traffic calming devices are recommended as follows, and then there is a listing of the exact locations that he proposes that they would be placed. And there is a sketch attached that denotes those areas. Speed hump installation will be funded from leftover funds from 23-24, and signage for the speed humps and three-way stop configurations will be funded from the sign and street and supplies in the current budget. If approved, installations will begin as soon as signage is available. Actually, Bobby has ordered the signs, so they're not here, but he has ordered them amongst several other signs in anticipation that this will be approved.
Okay, so this one is personal to me, and it's probably now personal to Councilman Warmoth, because that is her ward now. That was built back in the days, no sidewalks. The street that you go in Concord goes straight all down, ends up in a cul-de-sac. I'm trying to remember, when you go in, Winchester's on the left, but on the right, I can't think of the name. It might actually be called River Trace on that one. That one just goes on, and I mean, you could really carry on going down that road. There's family, there's children there. In this case, it's pets, which is bad enough. It could very well be a child. You will never hear me argue against traffic calming in these neighborhoods. I only have one complaint, so take this back to the department and to Bobby. We also have a citizen in Ward 3 that is qualified for traffic calming. Bobby knows about it. Qualified for traffic calming on Dallas Highway. This is now going on, you know who I'm talking about?
4 years and that's in the works.
And so while I want us to do everything we need to do in River Trace, and in the other case, the citizen actually at times did more research than we did and talked to GDOT themselves to verify. So I would like that one followed up on. I'm for the traffic calming, but we need to not forget one that fell through the cracks that it should have been done. And it basically is the flashing speed sign. It's not even speed humps, it's flashing speed signs. They were told it did qualify for traffic calming, but it's just never happened. It's not your fault. It just got dropped.
And I
It just
believe
got
that's-
dropped
That's
somewhere.
actually going to be discussed.
Let's get,
Yes, ma'am.
go for it.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
And thank you.
I appreciate you taking this on, you and Bobby both, as far as getting the speed study done and showing that, there is definitely an issue in needing some sort of calming measures over there in that neighborhood. I know that those residents over there have expressed so many concerns. I know Chief, I don't know where he went. The birthday boy disappeared. But his officers have been over in the neighborhood as well. They've had some other issues that have needed some police presence as well. I know that the residents over there were thrilled when they heard that they qualified. And I know one resident made mention that, thank goodness I'm not crazy. She said, I knew that I wasn't just imagining that there was a problem. So thank you. I just appreciate you taking care of all that and getting this handled in a timely manner. As far as Miss Watson goes over on Dallas Highway, I've worked very closely with her over the past couple of months. Once things settled down after I was sworn into my seat, she was very, very sweet in allowing me the time to get settled into this position. And then, of course, past 6 months, I've worked very closely with her, and Miss DeSanto has worked right alongside her as well. We worked very closely to get some resolution for her, and I think that we have made some good progress. So that is in the works for her as well.
And I'll just say, even though she's the one that spearheaded it, it impacts multiple people over there. We've had a car flipped in that area. So those people have driveways that come out that are almost like blind driveways. And the speed studies were done and everything. But anyway, yeah,
I
thank
was
you.
highly alarmed, I must say, that the high speed that was recorded was 85 miles an hour. in
Yes.
there. That
That's
was
insane.
very
In a
alarming.
35-mile-an-hour zone.
Insane.
Oh, 25, I'm sorry. In a 25-mile-an-hour zone.
Yeah, that's alarming, for sure.
Anyone opposed to making this consent item number 3? On the condition. Don't forget Dallas
Yeah,
Highway.
Diana's gonna talk about
Okay.
Thank you for your time.
Yeah. Okay, item D, utilities. We had moved item 1 up to the beginning, so we have item 2, which became 1, water system improvements. Church Street.
Good afternoon. John Bain, Utilities Director.
Thank you.
You're welcome. This item is for the replacement of the water main on Church Street, essentially from North Avenue, North Carroll Road, over to Temple Street, and then Temple Street down to Stone Street. So this is part of a larger master plan to improve the water utility system, essentially from downtown up through the north part of downtown up towards the hospital and Dallas Highway and Old Stone Street. Previously, some years back, water mains had already been replaced on Old Stone, Dallas Highway, as well as Stone Street on the south, crossing the tracks to the Avani building. So Cardinal Sloop had developed a master plan essentially to install new water lines to improve the water system from the hospital down North Avenue to include Cleghorn and Anderson. This section would be to carry that across Church Street, down Temple Street, and tie back into Stone Street where the other existing water main is. So we essentially now have some larger water mains and improved water mains at the south end and the north end. And this is one step of connecting those two systems together. So, but essentially this section here is, the section I denoted is right along Church Street, then south to Temple, and then over Temple Street to Stone Street, and tying to the already installed larger water main on Stone Street. So included in the package is a one-page showing the route, as well as the bid tabulation. Carter and Soup did reach out for bids on this project, with 6 bids received, and the apparent low bidder is HD Excavations and Utilities at a cost of $491,047. Carter and Soup and myself went through the bid tab and produced a bid recommendation and a notice of award pending approval for HD Excavations for the $491,047. We believe this will not only impact and be the next step in this master plan of water system improvements for the area, but you may recall there had been another project in the works to replace and improve on the stormwater system on Church Street. This water line, the existing water line, is currently in conflict with it. So we would need to relocate this water line in order to get that stormwater line improved. So it's another reason for us to move this a little bit further up than some other ones that we're still working on. So once this water line is installed, it'll be out of the way of the stormwater system. So any future stormwater work we do on Church Street won't be impacted by the water line.
Okay, on North Ave, the water line runs right up the middle of the road, correct?
The existing.
Existing,
it-
okay.
I like to say it meanders a little bit. It's on the side to in the row to on the side.
All over the place, okay.
It's not right down the center.
So Church Street is right out here. Okay. So this can't be done soon enough. I know we have to do all this. We talked about it. I had been told probably 2.5 years ago that North Avenue was the next thing on the docket. I don't know why I was told that, because when I think about it, all this has to occur before North Avenue, because we already started under the railroad tracks over by Olive Tree. And that predated you. That was an exciting day, believe it or not, to see us go under the railroad tracks and get that water line that we needed to get more pressure in this area. So I know this is kind of out there with the question, but any idea on when we'll hit that North Avenue? And the reason we talk about North Avenue so often is because that's where people are saying, we can't take a shower and flush the toilet at the same time. They've lived with this for years and years and years. It's another area that in this case has been underserved. You know, they've got a few little old sidewalks, but
It's my
and
understanding.
the road's a mess.
The water line itself has been designed for the North Avenue project. And it had been, I believe it had been designed before my time in my current position. The water line itself had been designed. What I understand is there's going to be a lot of conflicts, as you mentioned, with the installation of that. That's going to be a pretty massive project. I know there's going to be multiple trees affected by it. There's some right-of-way acquisition. There's some easement acquisition that'll need to get done to get that water line installed. And I kind of think we're in the phase of reviewing that whole process to see. I think Diana is familiar with it, but we're in the process now of understanding what that's going to look like to get that water line up there. In terms of the infrastructure, the utility, we have a pretty solid understanding of what needs to be in, and we've designed the water line. But now we're working out where exactly can it go with minimal impact to the residents, the closing of the road during construction.
Oh,
It's
it's going to be a mess. I mean,
yes,
there's
it's
no
going to
doubt.
be a
So this will get done
major
first, but
project.
we're working our way toward that.
yes. I think we have a few things to work on.
2 years, 3 years?
I'm not in a position to give a time frame on that, I don't think.
Councilman Warmoth?
This is another one of the projects that I've worked closely with Ms. DeSanto on, with keeping up with exactly what is going on. And I was aware that the large trees were part of the issue, and that, of course, there was going to be some land acquisition that we were gonna need as well. So as far as this project goes, this is first, and then you're looking at North Avenue after that, correct?
Yes, yeah, this would we would connect essentially the North Avenue project would be connecting to the far west end of this project and tying to the recently installed water mains on Dallas Highway in Old Stone to kind of complete the loop, if you will.
Okay, and I know that, like, I mean, all of these, your whole downtown area, of course, are older water lines. So how will this impact the rest of that area as well, as far as Elm Street? I know you said this included Elm Street as well, North Avenue and Elm?
Well, Elm
I mean,
Street-
Elm Circle, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. Yes, Elm Circle, we've been doing some work on Elm Circle internally. Staff has. We're in a pretty comfortable place down to a certain point of Elm. We have in my time here, we ran a water line on Elm Street to help accommodate some of that, to get us to a manageable point until the rest of the project is installed. At that time, we
I
can
see.
continue that work.
Okay,
So
and
we
the-
have replaced some old lines on Elm Street already, and we have made some improvements there because pressure inflow has been a problem on Elm. When I started here, it was a pretty significant problem.
Right.
So we've installed some lines on Elm to tie the residents on Elm Street to a newer water line that we installed. But we still have more improvements to improve on flow and pressure. We need to get the rest of these lines in at this point.
Has that improved or affected in a positive way at all with Anderson and Cleghorn
The work on Elm,
on Elm? Because, I mean, Elm and Elm connects to Anderson. I know that entire area needs, that's
It
why I'm
does.
asking, because I know that entire area, and I know that Anderson and Cleghorn is Miss Marchman's ward, but I'm just asking that entire area because it connects.
It's on the map.
yes, to answer that, the water main to replace on Anderson and Cleghorn has been designed and is ready to go. When we're ready to go forward, we can install that line. We did install a small portion of it. We replaced it relative to the project, the project of the apartments, the Arbor's apartments. That project, we ran a water main in front of that apartment complex because we want to get under the new sidewalks and entrances and all that. So that portion of the water main project got done.
Okay.
Once we get the rest of that water main in, it will improve the work on Elm, the flow and pressure on Elm. The work we did on Elm won't have any impact on Anderson because it's a smaller water line we installed. But the reverse will be true, and we install the water main on Anderson. That'll also help, along with the North Avenue and Church Street. That'll all help. We really have to get it all the pieces together to improve the flow in the area. You know, if we only improve it to some point, we've got to get it the rest of the way to improve the entire area, if that
Right.
makes sense.
Right. That's what I was getting at. I may not understand your system, but I know that it all works together. But yeah, that makes sense. Thank you.
I think
Okay.
the term we used was a grid, all these interconnecting ones, and we had to slowly work our way up so that things just don't dead end places.
Yes, yeah.
And they make sense. One other question, just related to lines we're putting in, you said on Elm Street, it didn't have to, it sounded more like you were doing repairs, not necessarily all replacing. Something has come up recently, it's been mentioned to me locally, but I've also heard it on the news and some articles I've read with requirements. Is it EPA is having us look at old pipes, what's in the ground, assess what's there? Could you give us a brief
Yes.
summary of what we're having to do to make? And I think it's related to the old stuff that maybe
Yeah,
just isn't good for us to have in the
right,
ground.
I think,
Where-
you must likely referring to the lead and copper rule. So,
Yes, okay,
the,
okay.
which has been a hot topic. I actually read an article this morning regarding that and a new requirement that require lines replaced in a 10-year period. I read that this morning. That
Okay.
came out in the Wall Street Journal, I think, this morning's Wall Street Journal.
Okay.
But to back up on that, EPA has required all utilities to identify all the service lines in the water system. Now, service lines being from the main to the meter and then onto the home, not the water mains themselves.
I
But
see.
EPA has required all utilities to conduct an inventory of the pipe material of all service lines and have that sent to EPA by October 16th of this year. The city has completed.
Is that possible? To get
we,
all that?
we completed our inventory last week.
Oh, good.
So we are submitting it this week. So we will meet the deadline. We had 7,002 service lines to inventory, essentially, is what we inventoried.
7,002.
Yes. And we completed that last week.
So let me make sure I understand. At one time you said it's from the meter to the house, but then you mentioned the main lines.
Yes, the service line, essentially, our portion of the service line is from our water main on our right-of-way to the property line where the meter is.
Yes.
Then the homeowner portion is from the meter to the home itself. So we've identified both sides of the meter for all services, all customers in the city,
Including their side.
including their side.
So they know if their pipes in
Yeah.
their yard leading up
So
to the house are okay, or,
Yes.
or,
The requirement is we submit this inventory list by October 16th. We'll have that submitted likely by end of this week. I had a call with the company who's providing that information to EPA yesterday, and we're talking about how we submit that this week. So once that's submitted, then a utility has 30 days to get notices out to all customers that the utility has identified as having these lead service lines.
if they're
We-
there.
if
or
they're
don't
there,
have 'em.
Right.
Okay,
Which we've narrowed that list down significantly.
I see.
So we'll send, after October 16th, we'll have 30 days to get letters out to all the customers that we've identified as having lead service lines.
I see.
So during that 30-day period, we'll get these letters out. Yes, sir.
Councilman Montana?
So what I've heard about that rule, though, is that is EPA going to then require the city to actually change out these service lines on private property, even though it's on the homeowner's side? That's
We-
what I've heard about the rule.
Right. There is still a lot of conversation about that aspect of the service line inventory.
Okay.
We know we are required to replace from the main to the meter, which we should be. It's on our property. That's our responsibility and our task to handle. We notify, right now, as it stands right now, we notify the homeowner that has, well, you've identified as having a lead service line. And then, when that's, as of right now, when that service line is replaced, we'll provide that property with a water filter for the next 6 months until after that 6-month period, then we're good. After that line's replaced, it's the city's responsibility to provide a water filter to each property after that service line is replaced for a 6-month period.
So the
But-
homeowner will have to pay from the meter to the house? Is that what you say?
As it stands today,
Yeah.
but there's a lot of conversation about that. There is a push by EPA to require municipalities to replace the line from the main to the home. That push is taking place today.
That
They-
could be really, really expensive. I'm thinking
Really
even, you talk about
expensive.
big cities, that Atlanta would be even more.
Yes,
I mean, it'd
and
be out of this
the
world.
general thought from the water industry is that the number they budgeted for that isn't practical, and the time that they are saying it needs to be done in isn't anywhere near practical. Instead of 10 years, cities are saying count on it being 40 years. Instead of 80 million, count on it being 800 million. I mean, there's a lot of conversation about that right now. Like I said, there's an interesting article I read this morning about that, and there are associations in the industry that have a lot of concern relative to, and a personal concern of mine is having our city staff perform work on someone's private property.
Which we can't do for anything else, right?
Right, which we would, right.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so
Liability,
there's a,
whatever, yeah.
you know, we do our best to work on the city right of way because we don't want to disrupt a homeowner's property. You know, at the same time, you know, occasionally there's a time when we have to go do some assistance. We went yesterday and helped someone with a gravity sewer line to see if we could just help them identify the location. But that's different from excavating their ground and disturbing landscape and sod and tree roots and sidewalks and all that. In general, utilities are really concerned about going on private property to conduct that, as am I. So I think right now our plan is we will have the inventory submitted by end of week. We will have these letters out in 30 days to all the residences, and then depending on where we land with the rule, we'll take our next steps. There is also new rules coming down in the lead and copper monitoring rule that will begin in 2027. So right now, we're in this mix of working our previous lead and copper rules, the new rules that start October 16th, 24, and then more new stricter rules are taking place in 27, and that's where I think we may see some more of this requirement on the homeowner side. But I don't, my opinion is that everything I've read on it, there's nothing firm on that just yet on the homeowner side. But that's to be determined in my opinion. But there is definitely a push to do that.
Well, thank you, Mr. Bain. I mean, seriously, this is very informative. So it may take a little time, but understanding what's coming down and the safety of water is really important. So any other questions?
All right.
Anyone opposed to making this consent item number 4? Okay, that'll be consent item number 4. Thank you. Ms. DeSanto, how are you today? E1, ratification of proposal from Georgia and West for the engineering and design of West Industrial Court culvert replacement.
I am doing well today. Thank you. Hope you all are doing well. Again, Diana DeSanto, Deputy City Manager. This first item, I just want to apologize from administration. This was an item that was introduced, unfortunately, at a time of transition. This approval took place prior to both mine and Mr. Reese's employment with the city. It was brought to our attention by finance, so we just wanted to make sure that we acted within policies and procedures. So the reason why it's a ratification is because this proposal was approved earlier this year. This is by Georgia and West, and it's for surveying, engineering, bid documentation, preparation, and construction administration for the West Industrial Court culvert replacement project. And just to kind of shed some overall light on this is actually a capital improvement item in the budget most recently approved for 2025 in our stormwater fund. So what I'm asking for ratification for is the pre-design, engineering, all the work that will then lead to that capital improvement item that was approved in this year's budget. So Georgia and West has performed a field run topographic survey of the site, as well as identified underground utility locations with depth approximations. They've also and are working to prepare construction documents for this proposed culvert replacement. The engineering procured also includes a document package. The construction documents will include a site demolition plan, a paving plan, stormwater drainage plan, erosion control, and details, as well as construction details. Also included with this proposal is bid assistance and construction administration by Georgia and West. They will review bid documents and the scope of work prepared by the city. On behalf of the city, also attend pre-bid meetings, respond to bidder questions, and help review the bids received. Once a contractor for the culvert replacement is selected, Georgia and West will review submittals and attend pre-construction meeting. They agree to conduct 2 site visits, as well as review the payment applications and complete final inspections with punch list. Our recommendation is for ratification of this proposal with Georgia and West for surveying, design, engineering of the West Industrial Court culvert replacement. And again, I apologize that this is a ratification and not the original proposal.
This is the only attachments I've tried to open that aren't opening. I can't get either one to open. So I'm hearing what you're saying, but we have nothing to look at. Did anybody get it open while it still worked? Okay.
I can kind of just read from the head of the cover sheet. Again, engineering and design and surveying for the West Industrial Court culvert replacement. The amount is $20,900, and this is funded through our stormwater fund.
Okay. Any questions? Any objections to making this consent item number, what are we on now? 5? All right, that's number 5. Number 2, acceptance of Norfolk Southern Thriving Communities Grant.
Thank you. We received notification of this grant award on September 18th. The amount is $50,000. The City of Villa Rica is proud to be a 2024 recipient of the Norfolk Southern's Thriving Communities Grant. This $50,000 award will be used for the future park development in the Cleghorn Street Anderson Road community. There is no match that's associated with this grant, and we thank Norfolk Southern for investing in our community. This grant is actually part of 2 community programs launched by Norfolk Southern in 2023. The Safety First Grant Program, which seeks to advance safety organizations and initiatives. I believe last year the city received a little over $30,000 for a police vehicle. This other grant, this Thriving Community Grant, aims to promote economic opportunity and support vibrant community life and provide equal access to basic necessities. Award recipients are selected annually from across the railroad's 22-state network, and we recommend acceptance of this Norfolk Southern Thriving Communities Grant.
So on the city's part, there's no match, so
Correct.
there's not a concern with, we need to match some funds. The question I would think a lot of people might be asking is, are there any strings attached? Is this requiring anything of us?
There is one report within 180 days, 2 reports. There is a tax form that the finance department assists in completing, and there is a purpose report that is done afterwards. So essentially, when you apply, you say this is the purpose for the funds, and then you do a 180-day report, which we did on the Safety First grant last year, in which we stated the vehicle that we received and some statistics from the police department in that case. And so from this case, we would report what the funds were used for.
If it's not used in 180 days, because we don't have a site just yet for the park over in Cleghorn, is there an expiration date for?
No, we would report essentially that we have not expended the funds as of yet. What would happen is before next year's grant, before we're able to apply in next year's round of funding, we would have to be able to make a report of progress. So we would not be eligible again based on the parameters without providing a progress report before the next year's application.
Show that we're moving toward
Correct.
it.
So in 12 months, we would have to show some sort of, we've done something.
That's correct.
Okay.
So we're actually using this for the park,
That's correct.
not a closing of anything, just the park.
That's correct. Just the park.
And we'll have to use it for the park. You can't use it for something else. You just have to use it for the park.
That is correct.
Any other questions? Anyone opposed to making this consent item number 6?
Can I just thank Mr. Reese and you for working hard to make this happen? I know that Mr. Reese spoke quite a good deal with Norfolk Southern to make this happen, and I appreciate it. I know that Ms. Shirley does on behalf. I'm going to speak for you. Yes, ma'am, I am.
I speak for myself.
I'm going to speak for her because I know she's thankful too. But I know that their community is as well.
Thank you so much. And included in the city manager's update tonight, just kind of a preface to that, we are working with a fundraising coach to work on other support letters from other corporations in our community to seek additional donations and contributions for the purpose of this park.
Yeah, because I was on the meeting with
Yes,
him
ma'am.
in the railroad. And that's why I wanted to make it clear that they said this was specifically for the park.
Yes, ma'am. There's actually a press release should the city want, to go that road that further explains what this grant is and details additional information about this grant. I'm happy to make that available either on the website or on Facebook so that people have just a better understanding. Thriving Communities, it's pretty wide open, but it is for the purpose of economic opportunity and providing those quality of life services and needs that the neighborhood deserves.
And I did not even
Absolutely.
remember the police car one was related to them and that they do this variety of grants. So anyway, thank you
That-
to you and Mr. Reese. I appreciate it.
Just
We
one more
do have
question, and I'll
we do have some areas that might be for this park.
That's correct.
That we looking at, that, because that's a problem, to say that we not gonna do anything, or we don't have a space, but there is some work looking at different areas where the park would be still in that community.
That is correct.
Okay.
That is correct.
And the minutes will reflect exactly what the purpose is for this grant as well, correct? Is there a way,
It's on
Can we-
video. But
can- well, of course, the video clearly will, but I know that for that community in particular, things in writing has been a concern for them. So I don't know, is that something that we could put in writing for them?
Sorry, the microphone's not on.
there you go.
You could leave it on the regular agenda and just, that way, there will be there's detailed minutes from the regular meeting, there's summary minutes from this meeting.
So, Ms. Shirley, this is your ward, so I think, that's up to you, but if you wanted to leave it off of consent agenda, then we could visit it tonight and put on record exactly what the purpose is for that grant, and then that way it's written out on record and not just on video.
Well, the best way that you can make it be in stone, if it takes doing that to make sure it's in the record.
That's
Yeah,
correct.
It's
Well,
just,
then
it's
let's
just a
not-
more complete record
Yeah, that's
tonight
what
than
I'm
it is
saying.
today.
That
Then
would
let's
make
just
it
not,
be-
let's not put that one on consent agenda, okay? So we'll move that forward to tonight. All right, and it won't hurt to talk about it again, because people that only watch the other meeting will be better informed too. All right, so proposal for, number 3, proposal for Falcon Design for the survey, design and engineering of the left-hand turn lane at Mirror Lake Boulevard. This must be the notorious Publix turn-in. How much traffic can we back up if I stop here at rush hour to turn?
This is,
problem.
and this is going to tie a lot into a brief report that Mr. Griffin's going to provide following this item. We do refer to it as the Publix turn, and currently that is a Publix turn, but we've got some residential development coming in, and I think it's a good idea to definitely keep in mind of the future when we're making decisions that certainly impact traffic and traffic flow, as council well knows. So the purpose of this agenda item is to obtain approval of a proposal by Falcon Design for the surveying, engineering design, bid document preparation, and construction administration for the Mirror Lake Boulevard left-hand turn lane project. Falcon Design submitted a proposal for the following scope of work as it relates to the addition of a left-hand turn lane on Mirror Lake Boulevard prior to the lot at Villa Rica Parkway. This proposal includes project scope fees for survey database preparation, underground utility locates, construction drawings with technical specifications, right-of-way and construction easement plans, and an engineer's estimate of probable cost, as well as bidding assistance. So the survey work will include the existing topography with right-of-way resolution and adjacent parcel resolution. The underground utility locate will provide for a survey crew to survey and locate the painted underground utilities. The construction drawings and technical specifications will provide for a new design that assumes an 11-foot lane shift on the existing eastern edge of pavement to generate a dedicated left-hand turn lane for the Mirror Lake development. Falcon Design will also prepare right-of-way and easement plans for the city to obtain necessary property for construction to include legal descriptions. There are an estimated 22 parcels that adjoin the improved area. And finally, Falcon Design will prepare a rough estimate for the project cost to include utilities, lighting, fencing, pavement, buildings, etc. If selected to do so, Falcon Design will also prepare contract documents and technical specifications for the project suitable for bidding by our city's purchasing team. Staff does recommend the approval of this proposal from Falcon Design for the survey, design, and engineering of the left-hand turn lane at Mirror Lake Boulevard. And this is for an amount not to exceed $40,030. They did break out the proposal from the different components, so that's why it's an amount not to exceed.
Okay, so this has been kind of a hot topic because of the amount of almost rear ends over there. People are going to be, they might be a little confused because we've changed what we originally talked about that we thought we had to do there. So you mind if I give a little bit more explanation on that?
Absolutely.
So people are going to wonder why the sign isn't there first, right? First we said we're going to put a sign that you can't go left turn until we figure out what we've got to do to make people not go left, at least try to prohibit some of it from happening. But as you brought out, and I got updated this week, is that there's more coming in there, right? We see vacant property there. There's nothing on it, but there will be something on it, and it's going to need the traffic flow there. And the only mess up I can see, and I think this is significant, but it's in the past, we can't do anything about it, is way back when I was still on council and we were here, we talked a lot about traffic studies being done over there. And we wanted to be sure that a traffic study was done, not by, and I don't know who did it or didn't do it. It shouldn't have been Fuquay unless we looked at it, right? Somebody independent looked at it. It should have always had a left-hand turn. So it's going to cost more to do it now because it would have been cheaper to do it all at once. But somewhere the ball got dropped there because there's going to be enough development there that we got to have another way for them to get in and out, including with the apartments and townhouses, right? And whatever commercially might fill in.
I like to look at this as an opportunity for improvement.
There you go. Okay. Yes, we always call them, they're not problems, they're opportunities, right?
That's correct.
Or concerns. Okay, all right. So when people start to question or watching, where's the sign? Why isn't the sign in? What's taken the city so long to get that done? It's because now there's a whole engineering firm involved because we need a turning lane. And those things don't just get done like that. You read it, the details of what they got to do.
That's right.
It
Okay.
would have been done if it followed one of the layouts I saw, because it was actually planned for a left-hand turn, but it got taken off.
Any idea?
Nope.
Yeah, that's right.
That's just crazy. But anyway, okay, nothing we can do about that. We got to fix it going forward. Any other questions? Anyone opposed to making this consent item number 6? Okay. That'll be 6, and residential component, Fuqua update, discussion only. So there's no action on this one.
No action. And
Mr.
before he starts, I just want to say, I really appreciate Nick taking the time. The development team, all portions of the development team, from planning and zoning, to public works, to building development, and our chief building official, have welcomed me with open arms in their pre-construction meeting and TAC meetings. And it gives me an opportunity to see what's coming and listen and ask questions. And as I hear, I don't want to forget that there may have been a year, 2 year, 3 years since mayor and council may have heard some of this, and just want to represent at that point in time, let you guys kind of take another look at what's coming. So if you get calls from residents, you've had a fresh overview of what's coming. So, thank you.
It's been a while. Thank you.
Nick Griffin, Deputy Director of Building Development. This will be fairly brief. I wanted to talk about, Ms. Diana would like me to talk about the residential components that are out of civil process now. So this has all been presented to mayor and council, like Ms. Diana said previous, but it has been a little while. These are a big set of plans that were approved and submitted. Could you scroll down? And I'll have to.
Is it cold in here?
It is
Are
a little
you-
cold. That's my fault. I apologize. I turned it down a little bit. I was sweating back there. Y'all had me.
Are y'all
had me
cold?
nervous.
How are y'all out there?
Ma'am.
Although I know we have thermostats all.
Oh no, it went down. Okay, I'll brief you real quick on the cover sheet. The first. I'm sorry. It's not loading. It's not loading. All right, I'm gonna pass this around then here in 1 second. The first project that came in as far as residential goes was the Villa Rica Parcel A, which it was a multifamily, so it's going to be apartments. There are 252 units that are going to be built, and there it is. Okay, that's the important, or what we would like to emphasize. Let me work this down. All right, so scroll back up if you don't mind real quick. All right, so we see Mirror Lake Boulevard, and I think the batteries are dying in this thing. Or that may be me. Okay, anyway, if you'll scroll down just a little bit more, Miss Leanne. There we go. Okay. This is where the turn lane that was just discussed is going to be, essentially. Yeah. So you're going to come in, and you're going to see apartments immediately to your left. So we're going to have 252 units right in that area. The entrance is going to be, through that private drive, and they're going to come in. I'm going to steal her. No, you're fine. All right, so then you're going to enter in the parking lot, and these two parcels or projects are connected with a private drive. That's this private drive right here. I'm going to steal that. Can I take it? Okay, and that's going to allow them to share the trash compactor, which you see here, and then we're going to scroll down and over, and that's that road we just looked at. This technology is not working with me. I don't know what's going on with that. I don't know, yeah, that's Miss Lee's. All right, so then you're going to be able to make your way through that parking lot, and then you're going to hit, it is the Villa Rica Connector Road.
So when does this plan to happen?
They're out of civil. So we gave an LDP to the multifamily Villa Rica Parcel A not too long ago, a few months ago, and they wanted to kind of work these projects a little in tandem. And Villa Rica Parcel B, which is the townhome component, which is 56 townhomes, will get permitted within the next week or so. So they've met all of our requirements. Their plan set is approved. They submitted all the documents of the bonds and everything required. So once they get the land disturbance permit, they're going to start moving dirt. They're going to submit their architectural plans to the office. We're going to start reviewing those. The fire marshal will review those. They'll apply for a building permit, and if the plan set is approved, they will get a building permit and start going vertical.
Which one's going to happen first, the apartments or the townhomes?
It'd be speculation if I were to answer that. If you don't, I mean, I can give you. I believe the intent would possibly be to work them both in tandem. So you're going to have your graders on site from multifamily, at the front. Right when they get done, they get graded. They're probably going to drive right down that little private road that I showed you guys and start grading over at the townhomes. The city staff did have a concern, obviously. You heard the concern with Mirror Lake Boulevard, the turn lane, the backing up of traffic, the stacking. When we have 308 residents, which, you kind of calculate a car and a half essentially per unit, we believe a lot of residents that don't live in these two parcels or projects are going to start using that private road to cut through over to the connector, and we're going to have some traffic backup.
We plan to have the turn lane completed way before they get this done, right?
That is the intent and hope. So that was it. Brief little update. Yes, sir.
Yeah, that's the plan. Complete the turn lane before they get this done.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Y'all good? That's discussion only. We don't have take any action on that. Anything else before we close the meeting? I will, I would just mention, please remember Jeff Reese in your prayers. I have received a text message. It's a very difficult time. We're closing the work session. See you back at 6. Oh, yes. Oh, I'm sorry. Review the consent agenda. I'm so sorry. I got this text and it just totally threw me off of what's happening there at the hospital. So we'll review the agenda, the consent items, and then we will go to public comment. All right, consent item number 1, the supplemental, I got to go down to where, water supply intergovernmental agreement. That's with Carroll County. Consent item number 2, that's the pest control services. Consent item number 3, traffic calming for River Trace. Consent item number 4, water systems improvement on Church Street. Item number 5, ratification of proposal for Georgia and West for engineering of the design of the West Industrial Court culvert. Consent item number 6, proposal for Falcon Design for the survey and design and engineering of the left-hand turn lane at Mirror Lake Boulevard. I do not have my notes out about public comment, so I won't go. I'll just briefly say, state your name and address for the record, and use civil discourse, but this is your time. We do not engage in back and forth at this time, but this is your time to speak if you want to make a comment about anything on the agenda or if it's not on the agenda. So we open for public comment, and first name is Jackie Childress.
Jackie Childress, 1050 West Highway 78. I guess I'm going to have to defer part of my comment until tonight because I really need a question qualified for me that took place during this session. It's my understanding that the application for the liquor license has already been approved. Is that correct? So that's off the table. That's a done deal, correct? Well, then I have to tell you I'm ashamed of each and every one of you. First of all, that your city attorney had to even inform you that this had already taken place. How do you not know these things? How do you come before us with something that's already been approved and you don't even know it's been approved? This greatly affects the senior citizens of Commerce over there. It greatly affects the church. It greatly affects the 17,000 citizens of this city who have sought assistance for the problems that they have, that this is going to directly impact. It affects the senior citizens who are trying to live out their last days in some kind of peace, that want to walk out every morning and feel the sunshine on their face and be slapped in the back with a liquor store. And you want to try to get this developer to come to terms and have some type of integrity. He has no integrity, or he would not have pushed this through, and you let him push it through. You owe the citizens of this city an answer as to how you showed up today and didn't even know that this had been approved. You owe it to us. We demand it. I demand it. I have supported every one of you. And I've given you my word that I would support you. And I have struggled with some of you to support you. But still, I'm hanging in there. I've refused to sign recall letters. I've refused to show up in your place of businesses to protest against the things that you stand for. I've done everything that I know to do to appeal to your integrity. as council members, as mayor, as city employees, you have a responsibility to us as your citizens. We count on you. We voted on you. And I'm just got to tell you that I've never been more disappointed than I am today.
Thank you, ma'am. Pamela White?
Pamela White, 102 Anderson Road. My thoughts and opinions are also shared with Ms. Childress. It's quite shameful that we as citizens have to sit and see the negligence of whichever one of you want to blame it on, because no one ever seems to know where the responsibility lies. But for something to get passed that is so critical to this city and no one knows anything about it, it's neglect. It's neglect. Y'all are just going around signing papers, just, hey, giving people approval to run through this city. This is our city. We love our city. And someone needs to be held accountable for this. You didn't think twice about the people that may suffer from substance abuse, that they don't have a fighting chance because no one cared. Would I recommend someone move to the city of Villa Rica? Absolutely not. And I was born and raised here. Because it's not the same, and it hasn't changed because of the people that live here. It's changing because of the people that come here out of greed and really don't care because they're just trying to make a life. That applies to the ones that's recklessly going about the city, doing their own thing to line their pockets or to get some type of form of kickback. But it is quite shameful. And those that are responsible, you ought to be ashamed.
That is the two names I had on the list. Is there anyone else that would like to speak during public comment?
Can I speak, Ms. Mayor?
Absolutely. You wear a gun. And have handcuffs probably too, I don't know.
So it's my birthday, I get to speak. Thank you.
Happy birthday.
I'm Michael Mansour, 101 Main Street, Villa Rica, Georgia. I'm also the police chief of the Villa Rica Police Department. I'm very proud to be. Have been for almost 19 years. I'm going to speak, basically, we have some really cool things that are happening in our department, and I just wanted to speak about those and some of the things that is going on. So if you'll give me about 2 or 3 minutes, I would like to just speak about some of the stuff going on. Upon reviewing the training and education of the officers at our department, I found the following certifications. We have 17 officers with college degrees. We have 15 officers with intermediate certification, 8 officers with advanced certification, 25 officers are field training officers. We have 11 instructors, 10 supervision certification officers or sergeants or whatever, corporals, and 8 that have completed their management certification. We have hosted a number of classes at the city in our training center to include field training officer class, health and wellness, LIDAR, standardized field sobriety, interviews and interrogations, management levels 1, 2, and 3, search warrants, affidavits, courtroom demeanor, gang awareness, pit training, active shooter training, breaching training, and vehicle accident investigations. In doing so, we have hosted officers from all over West Georgia, North Georgia, and Metro Atlanta to take the courses with our officers. We've also saved a lot of money by not having to send the officers to that training. In 2023, we hired 18 officers. 2023 hires included certified officers from Bremen PD, 2 pre-service officers from West Georgia Elite Academy, We hired one from U Harley, we hired one from Cartersville, and one from University of West Georgia. 6 certified officers that we hired. In 24, we had 9 officers that we hired, all certified officers, to include, I think it was 5 officers that have came back to Villa Rica since October 2023. This included 2 sergeants and a captain, which have been integral part in development of our uncertified officers. These officers have a combined 36 years of law enforcement experience. Since the beginning of 23, officers at the police department have built great working environment that promote positivity and growth in the department. We have not sent anybody to the academy all year. And by not having to do that, because we've hired other officers that want to come to Villa Rica that are already certified, we have saved, thousands of dollars by not having to send anybody to the academy. Also, next year the academy goes from 10 weeks to 20 weeks. So when we do send somebody to the academy, they'll be gone half a year before they come back to work with us. The state has a 2-year contract that they are required to sign when we send them to the academy. We're asking for a 3-year. So if we send somebody to the academy, we're going to ask for a 3-year contract from that officer before we send them to the academy. I believe because we're in such good shape as an agency, we're able to do that. We're able to ask more of our employees because we are doing so well in our hiring, and we're not having to send that many people to the academy. So I think that's a good thing for us. Nine hires in 2024 were all certified. Some of those that were hired came from local agencies like Carrollton PD, Carroll County SO, Austell, Cobb County PD, Douglas County PD, and Douglas County SO. I went to the management class at the training center, and I teach it every time because I enjoy teaching officers how to become managers, because it's something I think is something I should do as a police chief, because I'm very proud of what we've accomplished here in the 19 years that I've been here. In talking to those supervisors and managers and things like that, I heard a lot of positive about our department and how well our department is doing, how well our mission is, how much we have grown as a department. And I think I'm just wanting to remind you guys of that, because when I came here, Ms. Marchman remembers, Mr. Carter remembers, we were under a federal agreement, a DOJ agreement of things that had been done improperly before at the agency. And so what I think I'm doing is I'm bragging on the department. And when I say that, I'm not bragging on me. I'm bragging on the department and the people that work there, the quality people that we hire. The thing I'm most proud of is the quality of people that we hire. And I just wanted to echo that and let you guys know how proud I am of Villa Rica Police Department. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Anything else from staff or council? Then we will close the work session.